I'm here with Guy Sorman, who has brought us the exhibition of Liu Xia and her photographs. And we get a chance to sit down and have a little conversation about the photography exhibition and about his involvement with them. So to start off with, just tell me a little bit about Liu Xia's photos and her background story.
Well, Liu Xia's photos were not meant to be exhibited anywhere. I mean, those are photos which she made for herself when she was a prisoner in her own home under house arrest with her husband, Liu Xiaobo, Nobel Prize, Peace Nobel Prize. And so these photos was kind of her personal work for herself in order to survive, I guess. And I discovered these photos nearly by accident, by visiting her in her apartment. And I told Liu Xia, but these photos are extraordinary, you should show them to the world. And she said, no way, this is strictly personal. And then I put some pressure on her, and then she knew that her husband would be sent to jail for 11 years, and she would be under house arrest maybe to the end of her life. And she accepted to give the photos to me, and she allowed me to show the photos, and which I'm doing since now 2 years. I'm exhibiting, I'm the curator for these photos exhibition. There are 26 photos, and photos made by Liu Xia, most of them in her apartment. These photos are quite, how would I say, flabbergasting, because nobody ever saw them before, and they come out of nowhere. You know, there is no real tradition of photography, photo art in China. And so she's kind of a self-taught artist. And everywhere I show these photos, I mean, the reaction of the people are very moving, because people, they discover the photos, never heard about the photos. They don't know that China is Liu Xia. I mean, Liu Xia is a representation of what China is today. I mean, how people live and what they have in their head. And it totally contradicts, of course, the official propaganda of the official regime. And these photos are quite dramatic, I must say. So in total contradiction with the kind of hype, surrounding so-called Chinese economic success.
Yeah. People have been very moved by the photographs when they see them. What makes you say that they're representative of China as a whole? Why is Liu Xia under house arrest, and why is her husband in prison?
In China, everything is now allowed except to criticize the regime. So as soon as you start promoting democracy and human rights, which is what her husband is doing, and then you will be put under house arrest in the best case scenario. But if you start to organize a movement, for example, a gathering in favor of human rights and democracy, you will be sent to jail. And in her case, she's no political activist. She's an artist. Before shooting photos, she published poetry. She's also a painter. And she turned to photo because when you are a prisoner in your own home, the possibility to express yourself without any technical resource are very limited. And she had an old Russian camera, and so she started shooting black and white photos because she had no color films, no light, no equipment. So she did what she could do with the limited resources she had. And I say she's significant of what China is, because on one hand you have the Chinese people trying to improve their life, and working very hard, and you have economic progress, and this is good for China, and this is excellent, and I'm very happy about that. But on the other hand, they have no right to express themselves. So there is a kind of a schizophrenia in the Chinese life, and Liu Xia is expressing what people have in their heart and in their mind, which is kind of a deep sadness in a way. Not to be able to say what they think. And so this is, I would say, she represents the dark half of China, which we never see and which is never mentioned. I think any Chinese person is divided inside himself or herself. On one side, you are the active Chinese working very hard and make a good life and educate your child, not your children, because you're allowed to have only one. And on the other side, you know that there is this very dark repression and that everything is okay as long you don't speak your mind and as long you don't say what you think about the regime. So the photos do express this kind of personality division within each Chinese person, I think. Yeah.
So where has the exhibition been so far, and what plans do you have for it in the future?
I think we should start from the beginning in a way. I mean, I met Liu Xia for the first time in the year 2000 when I was writing a book about China. And so I went and see very often Liu Xiaobo at his home. And she was there because she's Liu Xiaobo's wife. And most of the journalists and scholars went and talked to Liu Xiaobo, and very few people were talking to Liu Xia. You know, she was the tiny, smiling lady pouring tea. And I thought she was maybe the interesting character in the couple. So I started speaking with her and discovering that she was an artist in her own name, that she was much more than Liu Xiaobo's wife. And that was in the year 2003, 2004. My book was published in 2006, and she was arrested 3 years ago. So just before she was arrested, I persuaded her to give me the photos. It was a little bit of a struggle. She didn't want me. The photos, once again, were not meant to be exhibited. And said, Liu Xia, I mean, maybe you'll never get out of jail. Maybe your husband will also spend all his life in jail. I mean, you must have another life. I mean, people must think that you are still alive and that you're still there. So if you give me the photos, I will exhibit the photos all around the world, and you'll have kind of two lives. One of your life, you'll be under house arrest and with no freedom at all, but you'll have another life as an artist exhibited all over the world. And she accepted the argument. So I smuggled the photos out of China 3 years ago, and I started to exhibit the photo 2 years ago. First exhibition was in Paris, and then from Paris, it went to Spain, to Germany, to Japan, to Taiwan, to Hong Kong, and to the United States. So there have been 2 exhibitions last year on the East Coast, one at Columbia University in New York and one at the university in Richmond. So for the first time it comes to the West Coast here at Claremont College. I try to show the photos sometime in museums, but also I like to show the photos in universities because it attracts a lot of students. You know, when it's a museum, you have a lot of people on opening day, and then, you know, nobody comes and sees the photos. It's very cold places. I mean, in universities, I think the confrontation with the students who have an open mind and who don't know a lot about China, I think it's more interesting and more provocative in a way. For the first time, there is something new in this exhibition. I will be able to read a letter which Liu Xia wrote specially for the exhibition. This seems very simple, but it's the first direct communication I have with her since 2 years. Wow. Because she has no phone, no internet, and she cannot communicate with the rest of the world. And so for the first time, she was able to write to me, and she's been informed about this exhibition at Claremont College, because all the other exhibitions she didn't know about. I had no way to say, Liu Xia, today I'm inaugurating your photos exhibition in New York or Berlin. I had no way to tell that to her. She didn't know. This time she knows. That's new. And for me, it's very moving because I never had any feedback, from her.
You mentioned that the Chinese government is very well equipped to repress words.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's why Liu Xia's photographs have been so effective, and do you think that that will be a new form of expression for people trying to voice their opinions in China, art in general, not just photography?
The Chinese people who want to express themselves and who are in favor of human rights, democracy, and freedom, they have understood, because of Liu Xiaobo's experience. I mean, Liu Xiaobo used the traditional way of fighting for democracy. He was very much inspired by the Soviet dissidents or by Václav Havel, and say, okay, let's publish texts in favor of democracy, let's argue with the traditional argument, let's post on the web a petition in favor of democracy, the traditional way inspired by the Soviet Union. And it didn't work because he's been arrested, and all the people who support him have been arrested or lost their job, for example. And so the new generation is using new way, in a way, to get around censorship. And photos like Liu Xia's photos do express, do convey maybe a lot more than any written text, you know. And sometimes they would use jokes and humor, and you know these kind of things which the censors do not understand. You know, it takes some time to understand that the photo is more meaningful than a text, and so and Liu Xia's photos. I don't want to offend Liu Xiaobo, whom I respect a lot, but Liu Xia's photos, in a way, they convey much more than a Liu Xiaobo's text, because you can feel all the anxiety of all people. She's a prisoner in her home, but actually 1 billion Chinese are prisoners in their country. And that's the meaning of these photos. I mean, what it means to be prisoner in your home or in a country. And this is better conveyed by a photo than by a text, maybe.
Well, we're really honored to have them here, and it's so great to get the chance to talk to you. Thank you so much.